Okay, so in today's lecture, we will be actually looking at another important section in AutoCAD, um, so which will be the annotation. So you will discuss about dimension, text, um, and few more uh, important concepts. Okay, so this part is very important. Uh, I want you to go through this lecture several times. So that is like must. It is not a should. You should, sorry, you must go through this lecture a couple of times so that you understand these concepts uh, thoroughly. Okay, so um, yeah. So far we had been working with layers, like the draw command, modify command, and yeah, basically, and also the drafting settings. That's all what we used, right? And we did not add dimensions into into the drawing. But that would change hereafter. So you need to actually include view labels like front elevation, end elevation plan, and add dimensions into your drawing and uh, uh, draw the center marks like this. And yeah, it should be after this one, it should be almost like a complete uh, drawing. But still, you need to know about plotting that so that you can produce the output. But once you get to this point, it uh, yeah, you have almost completed the 2D drawing part. Like yeah, I can safely say that. Okay, let's get started. Um, yeah, the first thing that you need to understand is the drawing scale. So here here in AutoCAD, we have like an infinite space. So you can, so this virtual drawing canvas is is having an infinite area. So that means you can draw anything from small microchips, like in nanoscale, to anything. Even you can draw the solar system to its scale, or maybe the galaxy, so, because it's virtually infinite. But I don't think AutoCAD is the best tool to do that. Anyway, if you want, you have the capability. Uh, right. So having said that, let's see how you can. So why this scale is very important. Um, so in CAD drawing or in manual drawing, you need to produce. Usually, you need to produce what you call hard copies or printout. Uh, so when you want to print your drawing, that need the papers that you have. They are not. They are not infinite. They don't have infinite area. So that means you need to somehow fit your drawing into that finite space. Like it can be an A4 area. Okay, let me try to. Uh, so yeah, we have the A series. So these are in millimeters. So um, it can be an A2 paper, which you are right. working right now, or it can be A1 paper or A01, or maybe something bigger than that. Um, I haven't worked with these two, but I have worked with A0, A1, and yeah, A4 you are working like a day-to-day basis. So, so that means somehow you need to fit your big drawing. Let's say if you are doing civil engineering stuff, your drawing will be like you need to fit buildings into a A1 or A notes paper or A2 paper if, in some cases. So you need to somehow, that means you need to scale whatever you have drawn here into that finite space. So that scale plays a very important uh, role in the following section, like in dimensions, text, multi-leaders, which I'm going to talk today. So that plotting scale plays a vital role. Okay, so keep that in mind, and you need to follow this procedure if you want to get the correct outputs. Otherwise, everything will be messed up. Right. Um, let's say I want to fit this drawing onto a A2 paper. Okay, so I want to fit this into a A2 paper, and so if that is the case, you need to check the dimensions of these objects and check whether you can say, fit them one to one. If everything can be fitted um, one to one, that would be perfect. Let's see. So for a A2, that is 420 by 594. So I can simply, to check that, I can simply draw a rectangle. So rectangle at, what is it? 420. Okay, it seems like, yeah, everything can be fitted perfectly. So in this case, you don't have to worry about the scale because you are printing at one to one. Let's suppose it is like other way around, like A3 paper or maybe A4. Like let's go for A2. That is 422. So let me draw a rectangle at 420 to 97. Like in this situation, uh, is also working. Um, yeah, so it is working in this case as well. Okay, let's go for A4. Right? What I want to do is simply to get an example where this doesn't work. Right, rectangle at two is 210, right? Yeah, 200. Oh, come on, 200. Yeah, this definitely this will not fix. This will not fit. See, yeah, after so many tries. Finally, I find a paper that doesn't fit. But you may think that after like switch bringing this one slightly above, sorry, moving the bottom view like this. Okay, let's take a copy. This may not be the perfect example. Perhaps making these somewhat closer. Yeah, you may think that this is okay, but the problem is we don't simply print the drawing on a blank A4 paper. So you need to include what is called the title block, where it contains very important information regarding the drawing. So for example, in your case, so we use something like this for a A2 paper. So this is called the title block, or sometimes called as the title cage. Okay, what you call it, title cage. So this title cage uh, is a very important uh, part of a drawing. So it contains the scale, the title, the drawing number, paper number, whatever additional details. There will be tables and who approved, who drew the drawing, and likewise there are sort of very important information in this title block. So you can't, you must have something. You must have this title block in your drawing. So if you include the region for the title block, now it is like you will not be able to fit these drawings in one-to-one scale. So that means you need to scale down the drawing uh, so that it fits onto the desired paper that you are going to print onto. Okay. So yeah. So if you are going to use an A2 paper, sorry, A4 paper, you can't plot this drawing in one-to-one scale. Right. So, so now you see the problem, right? So I will delete this one. Okay. So what should you do? So if you can't fit one-to-one, then you need to scale the drawing down so that it's gonna fit onto the A4 paper. Um, so so let there are some standard scales that you have to use in these drawings, in these technical drawings. So you can simply scale the drawing in 1 to 1.5. Say you can't have scale like 1 to 1.5 or 1 to 2.1 to 1 to 1.5, whatever the ridiculous scale. So there are some standard scales that you must use, like 1 to 1. Yeah, that is like the real size. And we have 1 to 2 scale, like 1 to 5, and so forth. Uh, Here I have some ridiculous scale that is strong. So yeah, these are some of the standard scales, and you can create your custom scale, but try to check whether you have the standard scale available. And in some companies, they want to use something like 1 to 4. Yeah, it depends on the company policy. Definitely, like 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.2. So those are not standard, and never use those kind of scales in your drawing. So you first identify what is the suitable scale that will fit these views onto the desired paper size. Okay, in my case, in this example, the desired paper size is rect, uh, A4 paper. Okay, so for an A4, sorry, for an A4 paper size, um, 1 to 2 scale would be sufficient. So you will be able to fit everything in 1 to 2 scale. So the first thing that you have to do is identify what is the scale that you're going to print. Okay. Once you identify that, your life will be easy. Um, Actually, there is a different method uh, where you add the dimensions onto what you call layout. Uh, that is also used uh, in, especially in mechanical engineering drawings, where you model 3D part and then generate the 2D drawing. Uh, However, with my experience in the industry, so when you go to the industry, like civil engineering drawings, mechanical engineering, very big mechanical engineering drawings, um, especially structural drawings. So they don't insert the dimensions onto this, what you call the layout. They put everything onto the model space, and from there you generate the layout. Yeah, I will discuss the layouts next week probably. Um, yeah, so at that point also I will discuss this uh, difference. Um, yes, there is a practice where you don't put dimensions uh, onto the drawing canvas or this drawing area. Instead, you put dimensions or text or whatever the multi-leaders onto the layout. But I will not discuss that aspect because I did not come across uh, those kind of drawings in my when I was working. So, so all the drawings that I received from in those companies, they always had the dimensions on this what you call drawing area, not on layout. Okay, so yeah, you will learn that as well, but I'll mainly focus. I will mainly focus on placing the dimensions or text on onto this drawing area because if you are putting dimensions onto and text onto the drawing, uh, sorry, onto layout, you don't have to worry about that scale I previously mentioned, like the plotting scale. But the problem is you are not generating one drawing from uh, this view. You might be producing like several drawings with different scales. If that is the case, you need to, you need to add the same dimension on each paper. So that means you are doubling, tripling, or maybe uh, quadrupling your work. So maybe that is the reason they don't put the dimensions onto the layouts. They simply put the dimensions onto the drawing area and the text as well. Um, yes, definitely. When if you go to training, if you see a drawing, AutoCAD drawing, like it is like 95 or 99% chance that the dimensions are uh, on the drawing area. Okay. Right. Okay, let's come back to the plotting scale. So as I mentioned, let's use 1 to 2 as the plotting scale. That means, um, okay, so the scale has a very interesting meaning. So what we are using is actually, let's say, length on paper, P-A-P-E-R, to length, okay, on real world, right? So that means 1 to 2 means 1 unit on paper is equal to 2 units on real world. Say if this is 100, if this dimension is 100 units on your paper, that means in real the real object is like 200 millimeters long. In Yeah, the real object is 200 millimeters long. That dimension is 200 millimeters long. Yeah, simple as that. And also you will see the other way also, like 2 to 1. If it is if the object is like very small, say for example, uh, electronic components which are very small, so then you need to scale them up. Otherwise, you will not be able to print in 1 to 1 scale. Okay, yeah, you have to know the differences. Okay, sometimes you need to use uh, like you need to scale up also, and sometimes you need to scale down depending on the type of the object and the paper size that you're dealing with. Okay, um, but in my experience, it was always like scaling down because I worked in a shipbuilding company and also like a tire making manufacturing company. And you can't fit the ship onto a A4 paper unless it is a toy ship. Uh, and also a tire, like industrial tires, you can't fit onto a A2 mold of a tire onto an A2 or A4 A note paper. So yeah, it is always scaling down. You need the real world to be, you need the real world dimensions to be scaled down onto using a suitable scale onto a actual paper. Yeah, that's what it is most of the time. But if you're working in semiconductor, small electronic, uh, small electronic devices or manufacturing them, then you need to go other way. You need to scale up. Otherwise, you can't. You will not see anything on your paper. It will be just a dot on your print. Okay, let's get started. So you know why the scale is important. So yeah. So first identify the suitable scale that you're going to print the document. So once you identify that one, everything is yeah, it will be a smooth ride. But you need to use this scale every time when you're going to add the dimension, text, a multi-leader. Actually, you format the drawing and then uh, use that what you call style. Okay, so let's see how you should use this scale and scale your object. Okay, let's go to this uh, document. So let's think about text. Let's focus on text first. Okay, so this was given to you in the very first day in the manual drawing class. Uh, yeah, in here we have given you a guideline that you need to use. You need to use what is called the 3 millimeters for normal text like dimensions, scale, like this. And for this main title, it is 7 millimeters and so on and so forth. So that means these are the sizes on the paper. Again, so these are the sizes once you print the document. I told you that we are going to scale everything down by a factor of 2. So So that means the scaled down dimension is, or sorry, scaled down size of the text is 3 millimeters. So you need to back calculate actually. So based on that value, you need to back calculate what is the actual uh, text size. So for that, what you do is you simply take that whatever the text height and simply multiply that with the scale that you're using. So if you're using 1 to 2 scale, then you have to multiply by sorry, multiply by a factor of 2. Let's say if you are using 2 to 1 scale, then it should be like 1 to zero point 0.5. So you need to multiply by a zero point 0.5, factor of zero point 0.5. You need to make them smaller simply. So if the scale is 1 to 2, you need to multiply by a factor of 2. And if the scale is like 2 to 1 or 1 to 5, sorry, 5 to 1, then the factor is zero point 0.2. Okay. So this factor you need to, yeah, you need to know from the scale. So it is just the scale factor, this one. So, okay, now you are ready to actually create the dimension, sorry, create the text, add them to your drawing. So to add text, you need to go to the annotate tab. So this one. And here we have what's called the multi-line text. And simply click on that. Okay. Click on that. And here you will see the icon. So I will create the text somewhere here. And it is front elevation. I'm going to apply underline, Control U. Um, you don't need to put, I have seen some of you were simply typing the text and then drawing a line like this. No, you don't need to do that. Simply underline, Control U. You select the text and here we have this button, underline. That would be sufficient. So this is not the correct size. So if you feel that it is not the correct size, you can always go to properties and there you can change the text height. So here this should be 6 millimeters, 6 units. Why it is 6 units? Because once you print the document, this text should be 3 millimeters tall, or the text height should be 3 millimeters. So we are using scale down factor of zero point 0.5 to fit onto the A4 paper. So that means the text should be scaled up. Otherwise, it would be like 1.5 millimeter once you print the document. So this 3 millimeter is very important. If you go below that, it will be very difficult to read the uh, drawing. Actually, this would be not 3 millimeters. It should be 5 millimeters. So then it should be 10. Okay, let me do it. Right. Yeah. So the problem is I'm trying to fit down to a very small paper, so text is becoming very large compared to the drawing. Yeah, yeah, that's a poor choice of paper, I would say. Okay, maybe the part is very small. That might be the reason, main reason actually. Right, yeah. So remember the scale and insert it. So once you insert the text, um, you can do modification, like go to properties, you can change the size. Yes, you can. If you want it modified, simply double click on the text and here update. Okay, you can type whatever you want. Um, let's go to properties. And here, there is something that I find very important, and you should learn this. Um, the justify option. So, okay, let's zoom into the text. Here, if I type something more, you see that the text is no longer balanced, right? So I want the text to be whatever I type, I want the text to be always centered around the view, around this front elevation. So right now, if I keep typing, you see that the text are not distributed properly. So I am adding the text to just one side, and other side is yeah, it is fixed. So this is called the justification of the text object. You can actually change it. Um, so what I usually use is this one called front center. So if you use front center or let's say bottom center as well, or you can use middle center, something of the center. Okay, let's use the bottom center. You can see this like grip. So what I do is I use that justification like bottom center or front center and align it with the center of the front view like this. Okay. Now, when you justify to the center, whatever I type, so it is perfectly distributed. So it is always centered. Okay. So that is a nice tool and you should use it. Otherwise, you need to always align these once if you do a small change. So the other thing, uh, okay, let me take a copy for the end elevation. Okay, I quite often find that when student insert like different elevation, they are not aligning this text. So, but in this class, I want you to align these text. Okay, so if this is end elevation, so these two text should be properly aligned. This is not aligned. So yeah, what I can do is see, go to properties, like change the Y position to, I don't know, let's take 95. Let's go to 195. Okay, then that's fine. I can maybe move them down. Yeah, now they are perfectly aligned. Okay, so this is one mistake I find. Your label, view label should be aligned. Okay, that is the first thing. The second thing is, um, so not having sufficient distance between these objects, like between the drawing and the text. Okay, so you need to have like sufficient distance between your text and the drawing, the view. Okay, so here I have about 17 millimeters. That means if you scale down on actual paper, I get around 8 millimeters once you print. So that is sufficient. Um, and so don't try to move the text so close that it is something like this. So that is wrong. And you will get mark reduction if you do this. So this is wrong. Okay, that is wrong. But I find a lot of people doing that. And another mistake that I find is so they have so like they have sufficient gap here, but the center line it is going like this. So that is also wrong. Don't do that. Okay. So this is also wrong. So yes. Okay. So previously I was using this going to properties and using a value here, right? Um, you don't need to do that. So if your text is not aligned, so what I did was I went to this object tab and enable this one called insertion. I typically don't enable this one other than this special case. This is one of the special case I enable this one. This that setting actually. So what you can do is enable that insertion, then simply move it using move command. So now you can snap to this insertion point, and yeah, so that would align them properly. Okay. Okay, that means both of them should be bottom center, whatever the justification that you use. So they need to have the same identical justification if you want to get the correct result from that procedure. Okay, so it can be center justification or whatever the justification they have to have. Both of them need to be the same. That's all. That is the constraint. That is the only constraint in that technique. Okay, now I can simply take a copy of this one and make it the plan. Okay, front end plan. Um, yeah, so that's all about adding text. So here you have the command multi-line text or command alias is empty. Sorry, empty. Hmm, okay, see, sorry, not empty. It is T, just T. Uh, T for text, multi-line text. Empty is what? Okay. Yeah, empty is working. I don't know why that gave me a error. Anyway, yeah, empty or T, simply T. Yeah, we have the text and they are properly aligned. and here. Okay. So for this gap, the gap between your view and your text, like keep at least one text height. Okay. So here the text is how much? 10 units long. Sorry, text height is 10 units. So that means I keep at least 10 units from here to the top of the text, at least 10. So otherwise it will be too much cluttered, too cluttered, not too much. Okay. Mm, right, right, right. So that is fine. Okay, now I want to talk about styles in AutoCAD. So here, let's suppose I want to change the font of this text. So how do you control that? So you can simply select it, go to properties, and here if you go down, blah, 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 you can't do that. So how can I change the font? And I don't, in my drawings, I don't typically use this font style um, in my drawing. I use a different one. Okay, so to do that, you need to know about what's called style. Style. So it's a very important concept. So you will find styles in dimensions, text, multi leaders, so and also in Word. So the command is st for style. So that will bring up this dialog box. Or you can go to the ribbon. So you can go to the ribbon, and here you see this tiny eye symbol. So that will bring the style. So click on that and you will get this dialog box called text style. Okay, here you can create or modify existing styles. You can modify existing styles or you can create a new one. So depending on the template file, uh, so if I go to style, here I get two styles, and the default font is Arial. I don't like that. No, I don't. So let me go to font style, and here, so I'm going to change. By the way, this font, this text work using, they are using the standard text style. Okay. By the way, you can change the style, text style of a text. Okay, that is somewhat difficult by going to this drop down menu. Okay. Yeah, that is. Oh, otherwise you can go to properties here, and from here you can change the style. That is another way. Okay. So what you do is, let's say if you want to change the font, what you do is you modify the style. So here I'm using the standard style. And, yeah. So from here, I'm going to choose something called Roman. So there are different Roman fonts, like Roman C, Roman D, Roman S, Roman T. So they have slight variations. You can see. You can see a preview here. Okay. Roman T is that romantic. I don't know. I don't know. So, and here you will notice that some of these fonts have a special extension. So here this one is Roman C, .shx. So this one with a different extension. So they are AutoCAD fonts. So there is one called Simplex, this font. So Simplex fonts also have this dot HX extension. So they are special. As I mentioned, they are AutoCAD fonts and they work very well with AutoCAD text. So I don't use the standard Windows fonts in my drawing. Um, yes, I typically use these Simplex and Roman font. So I most of the time that would be Roman. And they have like I don't know, nice touch to them. So see, I like this kind of this style, the way these fonts are formatted. So and you will find them in a lot of drawings. So like like in industrial drawings, if you go to the industry and once you go to the industry and look, so they will be usually these standard AutoCAD fonts, right? Okay, I will actually give you in the assignment, I will tell you which font to use, and you need to use that font. So it will be like Simplex, or it will be usually Simplex or Roman C or Roman D. Okay, so that's how you change the font. And one more important thing. So when you create a new style, so let's say for use, let me use. Um, Always make sure to keep the text height at 0. You don't give a text height here, make it 0 and play with these other settings. So keep it 0. So it is very important that you keep it as 0. So I will explain the reason shortly. So for the time being, remember that it should be 0. Okay, so I think that is all about fonts, sorry, text that you need to know right now. Um, and you can explore. Okay. Um, in addition, so you can change the text height on the fly. Like here, uh, say I want this new fonts to be 6 millimeters in text height. So I can simply type 6 here and type whatever I want. Text. Okay. Another another command that I often use is match properties, MA. So let's suppose I want to make this text look like this one. So what I do is go to match properties and select this as the um, source and click here. Come, right. So I'm copying properties from here to there. So that means the text height will be the same. Um, yeah, style will be copied from here to there, but it haven't copied the and also justification. Yeah, it is center justified, but center bottom justified. But it haven't copied this underline property. I don't know. Let's say match properties. Maybe I have disabled that one. No, it is not copying. It seems like it's not copying the underlying property. Yeah. Anyway, that's a nice tool if you want to copy properties from one text to a different text. So later you can simply add an underline. So that tool is very useful, that command, match properties. So you can match properties from object to another object, like here. You can match properties from text to text and so forth. Okay. Uh, so we have text. Okay, from now on your drawings, you need to add text. And I will specifically give that instruction that you must add text. And I will give the plotting scale, whatever. The intended scale, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and 1 to 4. Sorry, 1 to 3 is not a standard scale. Um, yeah. And you need to use the correct text height depending on the object that you're creating. So this is the guideline. It has already been given. I might give you the instruction in the assignment, or I might not give you. But if I haven't given you the text height, these are the values that you have to use. All right, let's go to the drawing and let's talk about dimension. Oh, one more thing. You keep your text on a different layer. So I use the annotation layer for text, and I use dimension layer for the dimensions as the name implies. So I'll use like I'll put the tables, uh, text onto the annotation layer, and yes, put the dimensions onto dimension layer. So dimensions are very important. So let's talk about them. Right. So similar to text, you need to first identify what is the plotting scale. So based on that, you need to modify the size of the dimension. Otherwise, once you print the document, the dimensions will be too large, difficult to read, or it will be too small. Uh, sorry, if it is too large, it won't be difficult to read, but it will obstruct the drawing. So it will be too, you have too large dimensions and the drawing is small. And I have seen a lot of drawings with that mistake. Um, yeah. Okay. If the dimensions are very small, you will not be able to read, and you will actually misread the dimensions. So sometimes you might miss 8. Sorry, you might misread 8 as a 0 if it is too small. So um, yeah, when people become older and older, they will have a hard time reading the small dimensions. So therefore, they need to be uh, properly sized. So I'll be very uh, thorough on this when I'm creating your assignment. So make sure that the dimensions sizes are exact. Oh, as I given in the instruction. Okay. Right. So to add dimensions, you go to the annotate, and here we have the dimension panel, and here we have the tools you need for adding dimensions. For creating dimensions, we have a special standard. So the standard is the ISO 129 dash 1. And this is 2018, the newest version, if I remember correctly. So let's Google that one. Yeah, I think that is, yeah, according to them, this is the standard ISO 129-1 2018 version, or 2018 edition. That is the most recent uh, revision. You can see a preview, but you need to pay if you want to get the full standard. So this talks about okay, that's maximum given in the preview. So yeah, our standard, Sri Lankan standard, it is actually based on the this one, not this one, the old version, new one. So the guidelines you are getting in your manual drawing class is based on the ISO standard, so it will not be very different. Uh, Especially mechanical students, you need to be thorough with this standard. What it says about adding dimensions. So I want you to read some textbook and uh, know this, what this standard gives you. So what it wants, how the dimensions are placed in this standard. Okay, so there are several things that you need to remember. Like, yeah, I'll explain them while putting the dimensions. And okay, let's first thing you need the dimensions on a separate layer, similar to text. So I am on the dimension layer, so nothing to worry. Or otherwise, actually in new AutoCAD, I'm not sure this is available in AutoCAD 2017 or 2016. In newer version, you can actually set what is the layer for the dimension. So you can, let's say I can be on centerline layer, and here I will set dimensions to be on dimension layer or dimension layer. So even though my current layer is centerline, if I make a dimension, it will be on dimension layer. But if I make a line, that would be in centerline layer. So that is a nice tool as far as I think. Um, so which makes your life little easy. So you don't have to worry about switching to the dimension layer because it's already set here. Okay. So I think that is a very nice tool offered in newer versions of AutoCAD. If you don't have, yes, you don't have any choice. You need to use the older technique, set the dimension layer here and simply add the dimensions. Okay, let's come here. Okay, before you add dimensions, what you need to do is go to dimension style. So to go to dimensional style, the command alias is D, enter. Or otherwise, you can go to annotate, dimension panel, and click on this small button, this tiny, tiny button. Okay, that will bring up the dimension style manager dialog box. And here we are using ISO standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify it. And I will go to the fit. And here, so this is the scale of the plotting. Sorry, this is the plotting scale. So if I am going with 1 to 2 scale, my dimensions should be scaled by a factor of 2. This is not the value, you are scaling not the value, you are scaling the size of the dimensions, like the text height, the arrow sizes, the extension, those stuff. So you are not multiplying the like 18.71 by a factor of 2. That's not what this is doing. There is a factor for that one. Yeah, this is for size control. So I want the dimensions to be scaled by a factor of 2. And similarly, so I will go to the text, and here I'm going to put a value of 3 for the text height. So this is the text control, and here you can set a different what you call standard sorry, style, text style, and here also you can set whatever the arrow size. Uh, the default value is 2.5, and that is also fine. This is 2.5 or 3, it is almost the same. So I don't really mind if you use 2.5, but in the manual drawing, you had been asked to use 3 because you can't measure 2.5 with a standard ruler. You need a special tool. That might be the reason. So, okay. So the most important factor that you need to play with is this factor 2. Okay. Other things you can leave as the default. Okay, one more thing. Here. So the decimal operator. Okay, let me go to the decimal operator is an important setting. Some of you have been you are confused actually. Like in AutoCAD, when you add a dimension like for 1.35 or 1.25 or 10 point something, uh, 2. In AutoCAD, what happens is AutoCAD will write it as 10 comma 2. That is not an error. That is intentional. So in this standard, ISO 129-1, they are clearly specifying to use, it's clearly specified that a comma should be used. Okay, maybe, so this is my speculation, this is my guess. Maybe uh, if you use a comma, if there is like a printer problem, for some reason, if the comma is lost, so you might accidentally interpret this as like 101. Okay, so maybe to avoid that, maybe they have thought that comma is the best option. Okay, you will see a comma here, and that is not an error. So we are using that this intentional. So you first make sure that you have used the correct scale uh, in your dimension style. Double check the text height. And one thing you need to remember is here you should be able to modify the text height. I'll show you where an situation where you will not be able to modify the text height, right? Once you are done, close this dialog box and select the style from the drop-down menu, like this one, and simply add the dimension. Okay, I'm going to add the linear dimension here. So when you add dimensions, all of the things that was said in your manual drawing class apply. So like the dimension should be on the left side. So the text should be on the left side, and it should be offsetted. Sorry, the dimension text should be above the extension line. So those will be Yeah, they are the same here. And one mistake I find you guys doing is you are putting the dimensions very close to the object. That is wrong. Okay. I would recommend at least one text height between the line and this dimension line. Actually, this line is called as the dimension line, and this line is called as the extension line, and we have the arrow, and this is dimension text. You should be familiar with these terms right now. Okay, so you simply at the dimension, but make sure that they are not very close to the object. Uh, okay, let me go to the dimensions again. Go to modify, and here you have different arrows. The default one is actually this one called closed field. That would look like something like this. So where the arrow is filled, as name implies. Okay, but I typically go with this one, closed, the closed one. I kind of like it. Uh, it gives the impression like this is a manual drawing. That's what you do in manual drawing, like you draw this triangle. Okay, that is that. That is that. Okay, if you want to modify how the if you want to change how the dimensions look, you have to go to the dimension style, and there you find all the settings. And actually, AutoCAD is very, it gives you a lot of control over your dimension. Like in some software, you don't have that kind of that degree of control. So when it comes to dimensioning, I really love AutoCAD. Okay, so the level of control is unprecedented. So you can't match with other software. Maybe that is why it is the best in 2D. Um, yes. Okay. So this is one more mistake. So I have added three dimensions. Uh, okay. So here, this is the way the dimensions are put. That is fine. But you see that the dimensions are not the gap between dimensions, the gap between these two dimensions and the gap between those two dimensions. They are not uniform. So we don't do this in manual in this in CAD. You don't do it in manual, so we don't do it in CAD as well. Uh, so you need to properly align. So for that purpose, we have something called dimension space, dim space. So what you do is you select dim space, select the base dimension. Um, Base dimension will be the dimension that will stay fixed, and you select the other dimensions that you want to align. Then press enter. So you can type what is the gap between two dimensions, or you can use the auto option. I typically go with the auto option, so which will add like 1.5 times the text height. So gap between these two is I remember correctly, it should be 1.5 times the height of this text, which will perfectly align these dimensions. Another mistake that you can do is like putting the dimension like here. So the small is crossing the other one. So this is wrong. In ISO standard 129-1 clearly said that you must not do this. So you must not do this. So this is wrong. Okay. Uh, and another thing is you might think that okay, I have added this 90 dimension here. You might put the dimension here again. So repeating dimension is also wrong. And if I find you repeat dimensions on the front view and in elevation, yeah, you will get a uh, penalty. So you will miss marks. Okay, so that is wrong. Huh. And another thing is we typically do not put dimensions to hidden features like here. So I am adding the dimension to this hidden feature. Okay, so this region. We don't do that typically. So what you should do is add that dimension onto the end elevation here. So that is correct. Uh, in some situations, like you don't have any freedom, like that feature, maybe there are a lot of dimensions on this one, and if I put another one, it would be too much dimension. In that case, you might go to a different view and put the dimension on a hidden uh, feature, but try to avoid this as much as possible. Okay. Um, yeah, in some cases you don't have a choice. If that is the situation, that is fine. Okay. Okay. Now if I put the dimension here, you see that the text label or the view label and my dimension, they are very close. So this is not a good practice. So you should have sufficient gap between the dimension and the text as well. So yeah, keep sufficient gap. So that's why you can't fit. That's why we need to scale the drawing. Uh, so we have the linear dimension, which will add the linear dimension. And if you want to add like a radius or let's say uh, diameter, so then we have what you call the diameter dimensions and the radius dimension. So let's go with the diameter. So by the way, if you want to access it, you need to click this drop down menu and from there select diameter uh, and put the dimension. I typically go with this setting. Yeah, I typically go with this setting. So where the dimension diameter is above this landing area. But yeah, this is not an option. The ISO standard does not specify. It doesn't mandate this. Okay, you can simply add the dimension like before. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's put the dimension here. And I need to specify the size of this part. Okay, see, when I put the dimension here, sorry, I need to move the font down again. But the problem is when you move the font down, uh, so then it will be too close to the bottom font, sorry, bottom dimension. So that can be an issue. But yeah, let's for the time being, let's don't worry about it because there is a trick to correct that problem when you go to plotting. Uh, right. Okay, let me put another dimension here. Put another dimension here. Okay, so what is the problem here? What is the issue with this way of adding dimensions? Uh, so you need, if you are having this kind of dimensions, you need them to be properly aligned. So yeah, like this. So this is the must. If you don't align them, then you will, yeah, you will lose marks. That's all because that is wrong. So you can't have something like this. They need to be aligned. Uh, so you can actually use the dim space command to align them. What you do is select the base and select the dimensions that you want to align. But instead of using the auto option, you can simply type 0 for the distance. So that will perfectly align your dimension. Okay. So that's a nice, yeah, nice tool. I usually use that. Uh, then we can add, sorry, a linear dimension here. Uh, Step is 30, that is given. Okay, I need to add, yeah, just to, what did I need? So I need to apply the dimension here and one more dimension here. Okay, so these two are very close. So you need to move, so dim space. This is going to be the base dimension. Actually, this is too close. So I need to move a little bit down and move it. That. Okay, now I can use the dim space. Select the base, select the dimension. I will use auto option. And if I when I use move them, so then I need to move the text again. Yeah, this is what happens. So yeah, this is typical. So that's why we have in CAD for this. The, think about that in manual drawing. If you haven't planned properly, so what would happen? How you can add dimension? So then you will have to erase everything and redraw it. That is not going to be a pleasant experience. Uh, yeah, I will try two more dimensions to make it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this sorry, I'm going to move 5 to this side, and I will align these two. So that is, yeah, it is much cleaner now. Okay. Uh, okay, one more thing. When you put dimensions, uh, so to define the center or the location, sorry, when you put dimensions to specify the position of a circle, so you typically add the dimension to the end of the center mark here. So yeah, that is the recommended practice in ISO document. Okay, according to ISO standard, that's what we do. In some cases, they even recommend you to extend this center line like here, then put the dimension to the center line. Like yeah, you don't do this, but let me show you like this. Because 55 is already given, so you don't need to specify this 27.5. So that is also accepted. Accepted. It is also an accepted practice. Uh, yes. Okay. So here I have two holes with the same diameter. So for that purpose, so you should actually give the number of holes. So for that, what I do is I double click on the dimension text and then type 2 simple small x symbol and click. Okay. So remember that you need to have a space between here. Uh, that made this dimension. Okay, I'm going to delete that dimension and put it here. This is adding dimension is sometimes it's like artistic work. So you need to check where do you want to put them. Uh, maybe I can put the 90 dimensions here to balance out everything, and maybe all three of them I can put them to this view. Okay, I will put it into this view. Okay, that will help me to show you another command. Okay. Yeah, I'll put it here. Place it on the other side. Okay, so why we need to put the dimensions like before. So instead of adding the dimensions and using the dim space, I can simply select this dimension and use uh, I keep, sorry, I will bring the cursor onto this trip point, and here I'm going to select what's called the base dimension, and from there I can simply add, continue adding dimensions, like if you have another one. Okay, so this is called baseline dimension. So it's a nice tool. Uh, Sorry, so that will work fine. So give space properly. Uh, okay, those things can, so these two dimensions can be done similarly. So it can be added similarly. What you do is select this one from, then bring the cursor to this trip point. You don't click, you just place the cursor here. That's all. Then from this menu, use what's called the baseline dimension. Sorry, not baseline, other one, continue. Continue dimension. And so this time it is perfectly aligned. So you don't have to use the dim space in this case, but in the previous case, I had to use. Uh, yes, you can keep on adding or what you call continue dimension. So this is wrong because I have overdefined. This should be sufficient enough. Okay. Uh, yeah, I want you to explore the other dimensions like angle. They are very simple. So angle is simply to give you the angle. What you do is select two objects and you specify the angle. Okay, here if you specify the angle, that is wrong. Uh, I am missing a dimension. This one. Yeah, so you can add a angle or an arc length and align dimension. Align dimension, okay, let me show you the difference between linear and align. So if I add a linear dimension here to this object, it will be either vertical dimension or the horizontal dimension. Okay, vertical or horizontal. But let's suppose I want to show the length of this one. If that is the case, you need to go with what's called the align. So, okay, now it is the length of the line, not not the vertical or horizontal. Okay, there are a lot of information regarding adding dimension. So what you need to do is read the ISO document. So ISO 129-1. Okay. Okay. So this is the comma I mentioned about. So in decimal places, AutoCAD will use a comma, so which is controlled by the dimension style. So you can go to dimension, modify, and here, yeah, that is that comma. Okay. Let's suppose in this drawing I'm using 1:1 scale. So I need one here. Right. So okay, let's go to the dimension, modify. I put some dimensions here. Then I will explain what type. Right. DL. Okay, I have added few dimensions. Here 50. The thing you should remember is do not repeat dimensions and do not miss dimensions. Okay. Okay, if you're not sure, if you're not sure whether you have repeated dimensions, so let's you, you check with the adjacent view. So if I'm repeating the dimension of this diameter, then it should be on this view. Okay, and on that view. So you check whether you have added dimension here or there. If you haven't added, yeah, you are safe. And similarly, uh, here, this is the equivalent portion. So that means I have added 50 here and I have added 50 there. So this 50 is redundant. So I need to remove that 50. So this is how you check. Or maybe if you check, when you check, you find out that I haven't put the dimension. So then, yeah, you need to add it. Uh, ah, One more thing. Uh, In your layers, the dimension should have a smaller thickness compared to the outer line. Okay, that is the must. So, okay, here I have added this dimension 10 to this hidden line. But if you look at the end elevation, you can easily clearly, here you can clearly see the feature, this. So rather adding this dimension to the hidden line, you should add it to this, okay, to this view. Um, and here you should add the dimension center to center, and here center to center. And this is going to be a radius dimension. Okay, likewise, you can continue adding dimensions. Okay, oh, now, um, in this situation, um, yeah, here, I want to specify the length of this region, or maybe that is actually the distance, sorry, the length of this cylindrical face. So it is represented here. But the problem is now it is a hidden feature. Most of it is hidden. Um, and here you can see somewhat. Um, I would say you can go to this view or maybe this view in this situation to add the dimension, that dimension actually. Yeah, this 40. Uh, like that. So make sure that you have added all the necessary dimensions. So here I have missed two of them. Here this is one dimension that I missed. The dimension is one. Okay, sometimes I give you, in my drawings, I give you dimensions so that to confuse you a little. Uh, but when you add dimensions, make it uh, simple as much as simple as possible. Make it simple to read. Okay. So, yeah, something like this would be fine. Um, okay, so this is what I wanted to actually demonstrate. So I told you, okay, I told you not to use the height here. Let's say I have ignored that and applied a text height. Okay, let's say I will use a different foolish value. T from 3 to like 1.5, which is very small. So let's go to dimension, modify. Under text, I have the standard um, as my text style. Okay, now see, I can't basically change the text height here. Okay, let's suppose I'm using 1-to-1 scale for the plotting. Let's suppose I want this to be 1-to-2 scale. So I modify that scale. Uh, okay, so do you see the problem? All of my arrows were, sorry, all of the arrows got scaled up, but look at the text. So they are not proportional. So that is why I tell you, keep, keep the text height 0 here. So that is a must. So now if I go to dimensions, modify text, and now I have the freedom to control it. Say 3 or 2.5, whatever you like. Uh, so this is too large. I mean, uh, yeah, I need to change to the original scale, but you get the point, right? So if you don't have 0 there, then you will not be able to control the text height. And also, I need to change the font from sim to simplex. Right. Oh, not simplex, let's use Roman. Roman C. Right. Okay, you need to add the labels and align those labels as well. Okay, one more thing. Yeah, this lecture got, yeah, it went far beyond okay, so let's see. Okay, this thing. Um, okay, when you add center marks, for that you have a tool. Uh, should go to this annotate, and there we have a command called center mark. So what you do is, uh, that's fine. I will undo it. You go to center mark and select the circle. So yeah, this is the center mark. Um, so it's a nice tool. You don't have to draw the center lines and so on and so forth. So the nice thing is you can actually control like the extension length here, how long is this cross at the center. So those can be controlled using the property. Okay, so all of those settings are here. Um, but what you should mainly focus is this extension. Don't make it too large and don't make it too small. My guideline is actually keep that extension, I mean this length, around like 3 millimeters. Yeah, this length to be around 3 millimeters, but here it is 3.5. On the paper, that means once you print it, it should be 3 millimeter once you print the document, 3 millimeter. So then you need to scale it. Okay, when you after you insert it, make sure to scale using whatever the scale factor. And similarly, we have yeah, this command to define the axis, like here, and it has also the control. Well, you can control the extension of that axis. So this will make your life much easier rather drawing the center line manually. Okay, so in this case, what you can do is put the center line here, then you can move this grip up to here. So then you can modify whatever the length. Okay, as I mentioned before, this is somewhat difficult drawing. By the way, if you see a yellow symbol, that means um, this dimension needs to be reassociated, or it has lost one of its link, or maybe both of them. So since previously I deleted this center mark, so that's why you are getting this error. So if you see this yellow symbol, that means yeah, something is missing. So what you do is click on this arrow, go to reassociate, and select the endpoint and reassociate. So that will go away. Right. I thought of talking about multi-leaders. Okay, I will discuss this one and finish for today. Um, okay, so there are special ways to define like holes. So this is coming from the ISO standard, ISO 129. So if you have a hole, okay, let me take the pointer. So if you have a hole feature like this, so this is the way you represent that information in a compact form. Otherwise, you need to have a sectional view, and in there you need to add all of these dimensions. But here it is one simple information. So what you do is on the top line you specify this base diameter, and here on the second line you need to insert this symbol and add the top diameter and the depth of the cut. So this is the symbol to indicate the depth of cut. Okay, if you have a V-shaped one, like here, where countersunk bolts are used, bolts and rivets, then similar thing. So 5 is this one. This angle symbol indicates this is the angular countersunk hole. Yeah, here it is a step-like one. That's why this symbol is used. Yeah, it is very simple and it's intuitive. Okay. This shape, that shape, and that is that shape. And here we have the top rate diameter. Oh, 5 means diameter. And here we have this angle. Okay. And lastly, something like this, you specify the Now you are not specifying two lines, like you have 5 millimeter top diameter and the step size. That's going to be 12. And it is not going through all. That means it will, it, yeah. When you drill a hole with a drill bit, and if it is not going through the material, and it is not going through the entire depth of the material of the object, then you need to specify the depth of, sorry, depth of the drill. So that is given here. Uh, okay. To add that information, okay. Um, so to add those kind of information, we have what's called the multi-leaders. This one. So the default settings in the multi-leader, they are not uh, they are not correct. You need to format them to match our standard. So what you do is go to the multi-leader style. From there, go to modify. Now you format this to match whatever the standard you are using. So here the leader size should be 2.5 or 3 millimeters. Um, yeah, leader structure. Yeah, we have the scale as well. Content, text, standard, text type is 3 millimeters. Uh, okay. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Here. It should be. Let me try to figure out what the setting is. Text angle, horizontal, that's fine. All right, this setting. Underline the top line. If you look, if you remember, all of them need to be like underlined. That means this leader should go all the way to the end. So to get that, you need to use this option, bottom of the bottom line. And I think this has no effect, right? Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make much contribution. So this is the import setting. Underline top line. I usually don't forget, remember these settings. I simply cycle through them and select whatever give me the appropriate results here. I simply look at the preview and yeah, get whatever I need. And leader structure here is fine. And in distance, I will reduce that to maybe 2. That means this distance from this point to here. Okay, once you do that, finish, close. Now you can add those kind of all information. Command is MLD. Okay, I will use what's called the nearest. Okay. command is MLS for multimedia style. Am I using the correct style? Yeah. No, I'm using the wrong style. Oh, okay, I think I have figured out how the setting works. Uh, so this is what I try now. I need to modify and content. Here, make sure that the right alignment is set to underline the bottom line. Okay, so if you want to uh, get something similar to here, yeah, yeah. So if you set to align, sorry, underline all text, that means the first line and the second line will be underlined. So that is not the exact thing we need. Um, I think this is, yeah, it does not, it did not seem to have any effect, but you can try different. But the another issue is that the preview is wrong. So I take the multi-leader and I'm going to add it to here. Da da da. It has some effect. So all I did was I play with these settings until I got the correct one. What about it? Oh, oh no, I need to set the underline bottom text only. Yeah, when did I change that? Oh, yeah, yeah. Right. So that was the mistake, I think. Um, I can try. For me, it was like it did not have much effect. It was all about underlying the bottom line. Uh, and another thing, if you want to add an information like this, you need to insert the diameter sign. So the diameter sign is included. To include the diameter sign, you need to type double percentage C, like 30. So that gives me the diameter symbol. But if you want to add the other symbols like this step symbol and this symbol, I don't know what it's called, then it is somewhat tricky. So you need to follow this procedure. So what I did was uh, here go to symbol. By the way, you can add the diameter symbol from here as well, like along with a few more important symbols, and went to the other. So it will bring up this character map dialog box. From there, type GDT. Okay, GDT. So in here, this should be GDT. And now you can simply add whatever the symbol that you want, like perpendicular symbol. What you do is double click, and then it will add into this small win area. You can copy it. So this one, and paste it here. I know it is little, yeah, time consuming work. Then you can provide the step size like, you know, percentage, double percentage, 25, and the depth of 5 millimeter. Okay, you will notice that the text height has changed, so you need to update that as well. Okay, another thing is this arrow should be going to the center. You need to take care of that. Uh, Another thing is this arrow should match the rest of the dimension. Okay, so multi-leader style, I'm going to modify it again. Go to leader structure. Yeah, yeah, this one leader format. From there, I'm going to select closed. So that will do the trick. Um, I think this is not available with Roman. Yeah, in Roman C, that symbol is not available. So you can't use the Roman C for that one. By the way, this information is wrong. For this one, I can use Roman. Seems like something is wrong. Yeah, I will keep it as it is. There are two fonts. Top letter is Roman, Roman C, and the bottom is from GDT. So, okay, still need some improvements. Seems like. Okay, that, yeah, one way to add this information. Sometimes I have seen people simply adding this arrow separately and then typing this the top text and the bottom text separately. So you add the arrow first and then add the text as a separate different object. That is also possible, and I have seen that in the industry. But when you go to other sophisticated software, so these information will be automatically added, like in SolidWorks, NX, Siemens NX. Yeah, this is automated work. Yeah, again, this information is wrong. I just wanted to show you how to add this kind of information into your drawing. So for that, I used multi-leaders and formatted using the correct or the, you need to be consistent. That's what I want to highlight. You need to be consistent with the arrows and the text height and the font. And to get this behavior, I simply used underline the bottom line option. Uh, yeah, that's basically it. But it took me some time to figure out. Okay, okay, and this preview is not correct. That I found out today. Okay, that's fine, I guess. I don't need this. I'm going to delete that. Okay, this video or this lecture has gone, I think, for more than 2 hours now. Yeah, but it is an important lecture. So you need to go through it, maybe several times, at least 2 times. Dimensions are simple. I want you to explore the remaining stuff, um, like here as well. I really like this dim space command, which will allow you to align the dimensions properly and easily. Okay, so here we typically don't put this dimension here because it is a hidden feature, and we try to avoid putting dimensions to hidden features as I mentioned before. And the recommended dimension is this one, so you know it is a circle. And for some reason, I don't know, for some reason, if you can't find a location to put this dimension, then it is fine to put the dimension to a hidden feature. Um, but in this case, since this is a circular feature, you need to include the radius. So for that, I'm going to go to symbol. Okay, first you need to double click on here, then go to symbol and create the diameter symbol here. Okay, that's how you do. But in this drawing, it is redundant, so I'm going to delete it. Okay, that would be it. Let's save it and close the drawing. Right, so that would be it for this lecture. Yeah, have a nice day, everyone.